You know, I'm going to give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Stop laughing! And when I do, start fucking.
Also, y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too.
Funny jokes and unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You fucking guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Why Are You Laughing? A history comedy podcast coming to you live from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and the great Vaulted Podcast Studios. Today, I am happy to introduce you to the legend, Patrice O'Neal. And, of course, Mike's very excited for this. Mike and Craig and Matt, the whole gang is here. Matt from Rhode Island, by the way. The curator of Vaulted Podcast. So, yeah, today is a slightly different episode than the ones we've done, even the ones where we've broken down an individual comedian, because just the format will be a little different in the sense that this is a guy that I don't know your knowledge of him, Matt, but I know me, Craig, and Mike are all huge Patrice O'Neal fans.
He's my favorite comic ever.
I'm a huge Patrice fan. He's one of the only ones that I really know, like, doing these.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of Patrice.
Oh, good. Yeah, so we're approaching it a little differently in the sense that, like, I'm not running down his entire life for you or anything. The way I wanted to set it up is kind of an homage to Patrice and tell you the reasons that people miss Patrice so much, and so much so that he's the reason for the title of this podcast. So he definitely has an influence on me, and he has an influence on a lot of comedians and things like that. So I kind of wanted to show why, because people might not even necessarily know he is a guy, and we'll show a few good examples of this throughout the show today. But like, he's a classic, and Hedberg is this way.
It's profound,
but not as much with Geraldo. But the two I notice it with are Hedberg and Patrice, where they weren't particularly famous while they were alive, and weren't like crazy. I mean, they were headliners, but not like crazy sellout acts.
They were headliners for fans of comedy.
Yes,
Patrice was getting there at the end.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people think, and that's why I wanted to show. I think the clips I compiled today are pretty much just, in a way, will touch on his entire career.
Sweet.
So I wanted to show everyone that a little bit. But Patrice was a unique character in the sense that he did not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Similar to the way we talk about Chappelle leaving Chappelle's show and what that did for him, like to kind of say fuck the industry. Patrice was the example of how that goes if you're not Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you have not made that name for yourself yet, then the industry will fuck you over. And Patrice, time and again, did not give a
handicapped himself.
Completely handicapped himself, but like to a level that you respect, where like he didn't play the game. But like I said with Hedberg and Patrice, the thing is, like, it's a great thing to respect after the guy's dead. But when they're alive, you don't appreciate that for whatever. And people say, "I get your head out of your ass," you know, like you have to give in once in a while. But now when they're dead, it's like that's the legend of Patrice.
Yeah, but like,
you know,
it's always like the funniest stuff he did was not on stage, in my opinion.
More or less.
His funniest stuff was like off the cuff in the room, talking. Like, I am constantly watching the news, like, saying like, oh, what would Patrice have said about this?
Sure, yeah.
Constantly.
And
every day.
And the funny thing is, like, a lot of think we like, oh, I'd love to see what Patrice says about this, but we might be wrong. Like, he's not saying, he doesn't have the opinion you
bet you
predict.
are.
But that's why I'm saying I wish I would know what he'd said about this, not I know what he would say about
Right,
this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, another reason, Bill Burr put together a pretty good documentary on Comedy Central, which is another reason why I didn't want to go through like his life. Like, well, he was born in Roxbury, Massachusetts, you know, because like there's a good documentary.
It was racist.
That just came out this year. So
And hated Boston.
He did. Yeah, he does. He does not seem
Till
even
his
though
death.
he came up through Boston. He's friends like. He was boys with Burr and Dane Cook and Bobby Kelly,
But in
and that kind of
New
crew.
York.
No, well,
Before?
he came up with Bobby Kelly
Yeah?
and Dane in Boston.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that's true.
I don't know if he knew Burr in
No, he
Boston.
did. There's a ton of stories of them.
Yeah,
that's true.
Bill driving him home into Roxbury and talking
right,
outside his
okay.
Yeah,
house
that's right.
and shit.
Yeah, but he does not. Him and Rogan are the two guys that like, you know, they came up through Boston, but you don't associate him with them
Right.
really. So he doesn't have that Boston. He feels like a New York guy for whatever reason. But yeah, he's obviously a legend in the way he carried himself and everything, but to his detriment a lot, which is why I think, is the Chris Rock clip the first one I had there, Matt?
It is.
Yeah, I think that's the reason I put that first is because I wanted to show you how like the industry and even like comedians that love and respect him, I mean, not just because he's dead, like when he was alive, comedians would say, Patrice is the funniest guy. Like out of all of us, Patrice is the funniest. So if you're asking yourself why wasn't he more successful, this is one of the reasons.
And this is one of two of the
Okay.
clips.
His acting was very good. His acting was very good. He just didn't know. He didn't know the part, and he was very. He was just killing himself. He was.
I should have said Patrice auditioned to be whoever Terry Crews was in Everybody Hates Chris.
Oh yeah.
So I think the dad, I think, and they said he was the best one who auditioned. But this is what Chris is talking about.
Basically screaming, "Don't hire me!"
Oh, Patrice! You know something? That's the that sounds just like Patrice. This is the man we know.
I swear to God,
absolutely sounds just like him.
I know when I'm being like that, but I wasn't.
The guy that he went against was like, "I'm ready to do this. I know every line," and he probably wasn't as good as Patrice, but he was.
Wow.
He was so like, I will do everything you need to do, Mr. Rock.
Hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's not like it's a hit show, right? Yeah, it's not like you see the bus boards and the billboards.
I saw your True Hollywood Story. You were the same way.
I was, and I straightened out.
So that's what, like, you could tell, just in that clip, you could tell Patrice really respected when guys were like that.
Yeah.
But didn't see, like, the guys that are successful, like Chris Rock, straightened out, like he said, where, like, eventually they started giving in to the industry and things like that. But Patrice was so focused on the early part of their career where they said, fuck everyone.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be like that. And that's how he always was.
Forever. Like even in nothing interactions.
Yeah.
Like even like they were telling stories about how Burr was like, oh, I introduced him to this guy and he was missing his left hand. He's like, and Patrice saw that before he met him, but when he went to go meet him, he stuck out his left hand to shake his left hand. And I was just like, what a shitty thing to do on purpose.
And then I'm pretty sure, I forget if it was Burr or someone else telling that story, you said, and then he goes, what happened to your hand, man?
He was just, he was the fucking greatest.
He was the greatest. He was all about funny. He completely stood for what was funniest rather than what would get him ahead the best. And it's like we can all pontificate about how great that is and everything. And the weird thing is, like, there are people in the industry now, and people that are a part of like PC culture and things like that, that will say, I always said this about Rick. I said this when Rickles died. Like the glowing tweets you saw and everything when Rickles died. You would fucking hate this guy if he was going around. If Rickles was doing his fucking Japanese material, you would despise him.
Or if you were sitting in the front row at one of his shows.
Yeah.
You would be miserable.
Yeah, so like, so this is the 10th anniversary of Patrice's death. That's why I wanted to line it up with the end of November. Patrice died November 29th, 2011. He was only 41 years old, and it was he had a diabetes stroke in October of 2011, and hung on, but was in a coma for the next month or so, and passed obviously at the end of November. And it was, I believe, as Louis said, I'm very sad that we lost Patrice, and also very mad at him. Because there were so many times where, like, he said, Louis and Patrice would talk, and Louis would be like, "Put down the fucking soda," or whatever it was. Like, just get yourself fucking healthy, because we're gonna lose. Like, he goes, "I don't want to lose a voice like that," and then we ended up. That's what happened. But it's also like, I do wonder if Patrice lived another 10 years, would he have eventually kicked? Because a lot of the clips that I don't know, the clips that I put together today kind of show him becoming more aware that he was like that, and kind of regretting some of it. So I wonder if he would have softened a little bit, and if that would have been to his detriment. It's hard to say.
I feel like he would have softened enough to get like TV roles.
He had some TV.
He was getting he was a very small part in Arrested Development, a very small part in The
Banana
Office.
Stand guy.
And yeah,
that's right.
T-Bone.
That's right.
Hey, T-Bone.
What's up, man?
But in The Office, like, I will say, people overblow that a little too much, where they say, like, oh, Craig Robinson took Patrice's role in The Office. The way it was written from the first episode, you can see that was Craig Robinson's role.
Yeah.
Right.
But the way The Office worked, like, Creed wasn't a character. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, if Patrice played ball, like in the scenes he was in,
God damn it, Michael!
when he tells when Kelly calls him a sea monster,
Yeah,
he goes, "You'd
sea
be riding this sea monster, wouldn't you?" Like, he stole scenes that he was in.
Yeah.
In the and we'll talk about his time in the office. But my point is, like, if he played ball, he could have been a role in a role on a show that was on for fucking 9 seasons or whatever it was. But it was more important to him
His contempt.
to be funny, even off stage, even for things like you said that were for no one.
Yeah.
That weren't for an audience.
It was just for him.
Yeah. So let's hear the other Chris Rock clip. Why you didn't get that role?
Oh, you know what's bothering me about this conversation? That Norton and Chris Rock are having a nostalgic conversation that I still live.
If you had the right attitude, you're as funny as both of us.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm funnier than you.
I guess it's trying to tell you this is an intervention for you, Patrice. We thought we were having Chris Rock to promote his New Year's gig, but it's really an intervention to get you on the right track.
Shut up, Opie.
Shut up, Opie.
Able to move on from old school news. I'm not like that.
I'll tell you what it is. You're as a comedian, and
You're like Whitney Houston. You're going to have to be clean for 10 years before we buy.
So it's not that Patrice was not aware of it, which is the good thing too. Like he could be self-deprecating about it. Like there's guys, who's the fucking blind guy? God damn it, Todd Lynn.
Oh yeah.
You ever hear about him? Where he was,
I feel like you should know.
by all accounts, well, he went blind later in life.
Oh,
But I don't count those.
Poser.
By all accounts, he was a miserable asshole, but lived his life as a miserable asshole.
Yeah.
Where Patrice could be a miserable asshole, but then would make fun of it, was aware of it, felt bad about it at times.
Yeah.
I think Colin Quinn's tweet when Patrice died, paraphrasing, so I'm butchering it a little bit, but he said something like, Patrice is in heaven, infuriating half and cracking the other half up and reversing. Meaning like that's what he would do. Where even if you love Patrice, there'd be times where you hate it.
Oh yeah.
Like him and Colin were in a feud for a while because on the set of Tough Crowd, Patrice was kind of being an asshole, bitching to Colin about I don't know what it was exactly, but like bitching to Colin about things he had to do and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
And it resulted in Patrice's mother calling, as Colin Quinn put it, as she had to do with so many guidance counselors, calling to mend the fence.
He got into a fight with Bill Burr too. I forget about what,
yeah.
but they didn't talk for like a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bill Burr gets very, and it might have something to do with that, where maybe
Yeah.
he regrets that or something. But like when Burr talks about Patrice, gets very emotional about their relationship and everything. And Bill Burr is the one that put on the Bill
Benefit.
Burr, the Patrice O'Neal benefit every year, which I don't think happens anymore. I don't know if that's just because of COVID or if it's going to come back or what.
I think
I think it
up
did,
to
yeah.
2018. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's
I only think it's the last two.
right. The other thing I was going to say is we might be able to do an entire episode. I mentioned that documentary, the Comedy Central documentary. We might be able to do an entire episode on the scheme that
Yes.
delayed that documentary.
Yes.
Look into that, by the way.
Von DiCarlo.
Yeah, there's some shady business going on with that documentary, too, that Bill Burr had to save.
Yeah.
But regardless, that
Definitely.
benefit supported like Patrice's family and everything.
That's good.
So that was interesting. But
But you're right about how he used to feel weird about stuff. Because, I mean,
yeah.
I remember when he was on O&A right after the roast, he was talking about how William Shatner came up to him. He's like, "What?" He's like, you have diabetes?" He's like, "Are you okay?" He's like,
Yeah.
"I could get healthy." He's like, "I don't know, this man that I watched on TV in like the 70s had me like crying to myself when I was driving home."
Yeah, and Norton always points that out. Is like that was 2 months before he died, a month before the coma. So we can jump out of order a little bit. You want to get the Charlie Sheen roast clips up, Matt?
Absolutely.
Because this was the last television appearance Patrice made in September of 2011. And keep in mind, I just want to preface this before we play the clips. This is not the Charlie Sheen we know now that has passed AIDS on all over town. This was a guy who was sticking it to the man in Hollywood, and he was drinking tiger blood.
Winning.
I saw him live on that tour at Foxwoods.
Really?
That's when he went over.
Yeah, I got a free ticket
Oh,
for that.
God.
Like,
That's
I was
what-
going to say
yeah.
you didn't pay for that.
no,
That
we
was
got
when
free
Toucher and Rich had him in like overnight.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
They basically let him say whatever the hell he wanted
Yeah.
on the radio.
Oh,
It was
God.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Charlie Sheen famously walked off, and to Charlie Sheen's credit, he said, like, hey, I'm a fuck up, like, I'm on drugs and shit, but it's not affecting my work. Why do you give a fuck?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the battle, and Patrice really respected that, which is why he agreed to do the Charlie Sheen roast. He'd been asked to do others. He never wanted to. There's something about comedians that are very respected not liking roasts. Like we talked about Norm hating it, and Patrice didn't like it either. But this is him on the Charlie Sheen roast. First, I think talking about William Shatner. Actually,
Yeah, 2 clips of him going in on with Shatner.
okay. I also love Shatner can never not sound like, "What are you talking about?" Very formal. But yeah, he and Shatner loved him. But like you were saying,
he did.
giving him advice after and everything. And I think you'll hear that a little more in the next clip. But the thing that was so unique about Patrice closing this roast out is. And, you know, I think Anthony Jeselnik is very funny. At this time, I was an Amy Schumer fan. Amy Schumer was on this roast, and I was a fan of Amy Schumer.
She was still honest.
And she did a good job on these
This
roasts.
is where she saw him and went, "Oh, I can take some of these."
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It was interesting that you know, you had an hour or two. I don't forget how long those roasts were, but an hour and change of people getting up there and making these, you know, written, not hack, but like obviously written Patrice diabetes, fat jokes, that type of shit.
Yeah.
And then you had Patrice go up and say, not even hack, just what you get on every single roast. And then you had Patrice go up and just kind of like riff. Like some of his material was definitely written, but even the way he presented it was not in that way. It was just like him talking the way you would on the radio, where you're just fucking absolutely busting people's balls. So this is him on Shatner again, I think.
Why are you still looking at me like that, Mr. Shatner, sir? You're like, boy, I had more for that nigga than didn't say it. I should have said it because he's an asshole.
You're telling it as it is. You're telling it like it is.
Shatner loved it. That was the only reason I threw that clip in, because you could tell, like, Shatner was like, Shatner doesn't get shit on a lot, unless it's from George Takei. Ooh, did he slam George Takei recently?
I love this. I know. This still image of Jeff Ross being hugged by Mike Tyson.
Dressed as Momark.
Because of a joke Patrice said.
So there's one more clip from the roast, right?
Yeah, correct.
So I believe this is him kind of like, you know, paying homage to Charlie Sheen and telling him why he did the roast, basically.
Can I say, I believe the word down the bottom means shit in Portuguese.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You're thinking of merde, which is shit in French.
No, they're all Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese are all.
Who cares?
Hey, save this debate for patreon.com/blind Mike, where we hash out the real subjects.
Romance languages.
Yes.
I think he was about to cry.
And I have to reiterate, this is not the Charlie Sheen that we know
Now.
held a knife to Diane Richards and gave people AIDS. That's not what he was referring to. I don't think.
We didn't know yet that he chugged vodka by the glass.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of knew that.
Yeah, we knew that.
But yeah, so like he really was. Now the sad thing is, and this I think in a nutshell kind of sums up Patrice's career, and why he had such a problem giving the industry even an inch, was that he mentioned in there that he turned down 3 or 4 roasts in the past. But in my opinion, I don't know this, but I would assume that's not the industry 3 or 4 times saying, we need Patrice because he's so hilarious. That's the industry 3 or 4 times saying, well, these roasts are set up so formulaic. Fat black guy is good to have on the roast.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And that's the sad thing. And that's why Patrice was constantly, and he would rail against white people for their white tricks and shit like that. And I think that was
Blue-eyed evil.
I think that was mostly targeted at the industry.
Yeah.
Because of shit like that. I really, and he felt like he never really got the respect he deserved, and he didn't. Like, I was a Patrice fan when he died. I know a lot more about his career now after he died, but I was a Patrice fan. However, like, for example, when Patrice died, my buddy texted me about it because, like, I was the one person he knew that knew who Patrice was. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing where it's like, if I'm trying to think of a comparison, but pick your obscure comedian right now. Shane Gillis. Like, people would if Shane died tomorrow, maybe only because the SNL thing it would be national news, but people would be like, "Oh, you're a Shane fan. Like, this would interest you." But the masses, no one would really give a fuck because he wasn't that ultra famous. An Elephant in the Room just came out. The Sheen roast just came out, and like Craig said, that's why a lot of people think he was about to take off. Yeah, and it seemed like he regretted a lot of the way, or was at least at odds about the way he behaved a lot. So I pulled a bunch of clips from this, so if you're getting bored with it, we'll move on. But I pulled a bunch of clips from the last podcast he ever did. He might have been on O&A once after this, but it was definitely the last podcast he ever did with Jay Moore.
Yeah, Jay Moore's.
Yeah. So what's the first clip, Matt?
The first clip is he's talking about how roasts have developed.
Oh, so that's perfect. So yeah, he's talking about him doing the Sheen roast, I guess.
If they think it's like these roasts, I keep telling people, okay, I did this roast, but I'm saying there's something missing from it, and that's camaraderie. It's love is missing from it. Yeah. It's not just I'm gonna Google you and say horrible things about you that I found out on the internet.
Like we're all friends with David Hasselhoff. So, can I roast him? He's my pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that kind of goes to what I was saying about how the reason he did that is because he respected Charlie Sheen.
Yep.
And he wanted to make fun of him, but also kind of wanted to tell him that thing you heard at the end. That's why I'd say of the Comedy Central roasts, I shudder to say this now. He's a horrible man, but James Franco's was probably the best because those guys were all friends, at least on some level. Like, I don't think James Franco and Aziz are best friends. Mm-hmm. Well, like, they've worked together and probably been to the same parties and shit like that. Maybe use some of the same sex moves. I have no idea, but yeah, like they were all friends in that. Like, it was Nick Kroll and Seth Rogen and that crew. Yeah. Most of those Comedy Central roasts were like, hey, it's Snoop Dogg,
they're manufactured,
Flava Flav, and Donald Trump. These three people are always together. So yeah, like manufactured, like you said, and that's why I think a lot of comedians hated him, really.
But also, Patrice was a huge Platoon fan, so.
Well, that's why. I'm sure he wanted to get something signed.
Yeah.
Why? What's next, Matt?
Well, he kind of talks about how money isn't a motivating factor.
Yeah, so this is, again, along the lines of what we've been talking about.
And I didn't want to play it like a douchebag is because I really liked Charlie Sheen when he was fighting the system. I enjoyed that.
Why?
I enjoyed watching
did you enjoy his stance? $2 million a week, and you're
see, that's
causing
not
a problem?
That's what made it even better. Is that the $2 million a week? I would love to have that.
As a guy, yeah, but he said goodbye to it to go on some bullshit tour.
But
as a guy that made not that on a sitcom that got canceled, that was good, and I thought it was good. If they came to me and said, we're going to pay you $2 million a week, but here's the thing, every Thursday, Chuck Lorre, the showrunner, would come up, and you're going to have to suck his dick. And I would say, what's the bad news? And I would do it well. Like,
but that's different. Some people don't. Some people see that.
That's more money than A-Rod makes.
But that's not a motivating factor to me.
There's never an away game.
So I mean, we can all like scoff at what Jay Moore said there, and it comes off as very douchey. But I think in this room we would all be lying if we said we wouldn't be more in the Jay Moore category than the Patrice category. Like, we all respect Patrice for having that sort of thing where, like, I wouldn't want the $2 million a week to do fucking 2.5 Men. Whereas Jay Moore would, and you look at it, Jay Moore was a hell of a lot more successful in the industry, at least at the time, than Patrice was. Definitely. You know what I mean? Jay Moore he was in Jerry Maguire, he was getting sitcoms, all that shit. And Patrice had if you liked comedy, you respected Patrice, but no one outside of that group knew who the fuck he was. So there's something about that mentality. And as much as, like, even me who respects Patrice, I'm probably more in the Jay Moore camp, like, where it's like, all right, sucking dick for $2 million a week, I'll do that.
Well, what's the line? Integrity is expensive.
Yeah.
I do it once for $2 million.
Then you could stop, just invest it.
Or maybe I'll take a month out of my life, suck some dick.
What a month.
Get a nice savings account. And then
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you invest it properly, you'll have 8 figures pretty soon.
Yeah, then I too will move to a cornfield in Ohio.
What's next, Matt, with Jay Moore?
Jay asked him like if what would he want to do? Like what does Patrice want to do?
Yeah, so that's well, I guess that leads me to we could bring up revisionist history. Is there anything before we hear what Patrice would have wanted to do? Is there anything in Patrice's career you wish he had done?
Better diet.
Other than I was gonna say.
I was gonna say
exercise.
Yeah.
Career-wise only, or on the whole.
Well, I
look how fucking huge he is in this picture.
Yeah, I always think he was right before podcasts blew up, and he did do that. Well, Beige Phillip or whatever, Black Phillip, whatever the fuck it is. So that's the one. What's his name did afterwards. I believe, and I thought of this when Cumia got fired, where if Anthony Cumia left Opie and Anthony, and it was Patrice and Anthony.
Oh my God,
that would have been unreal, especially in this time. Two guys that outspoken on race on the completely opposite side.
That could have a conversation.
Having a conversation would have been unreal.
It would have been great. And they would each keep each other in check, too. Kumia's got no one doing that now.
Yeah.
It's becoming a problem.
And it's not. Yeah, it's not.
I don't even listen anymore.
Thing.
I don't even know.
I don't either.
It's difficult.
Yeah. But that was the great thing on Opie and Anthony. Where
those are the best episodes.
When the best non-funny episodes in my if you're taking away the hilarious moments, the best serious debates would be Patrice and Anthony going at it about some racial issue, whatever it was, because it made Anthony you realized by having two guys that extreme, you kind of realized Anthony's point and Patrice's point, separately. Both of those guys were called racist. Every fucking O&A caller would be like, "Oh, Patrice is racist. He hates white people, all that shit." And Anthony, obviously, people call him racist.
Well,
but when they're
jackboot fits,
listen, there's some, In 2014, I would have defended the guy. Now his Twitter is a little. Even I'm like, "Oh, Jesus!"
It's like, wow, dude, you don't take a break from it, do you?
A little rough.
We get it, Chicago stats. We understand. Stop throwing it out there.
Chicago stats.
But yeah, when those guys were together, you would kind of realize both their points.
Yeah.
That it didn't necessarily come from a place of hate. It came from almost questioning the media more than anything.
Yeah.
More than any race issue. Really, it was more the way things are portrayed in the media and certain stereotypes and things like that. So that would have been fascinating to hear. And just Patrice having a podcast in general.
That would have been great.
Would have been awesome. He was right before that would have. And you know what? As much as people say, oh, maybe he would have taken an acting role or whatever, a podcast would have blown him up.
His interviews would have been unreal.
He would have been.
It would have been amazing.
He would not have been Joe Rogan because it would have been so different.
Yeah.
But he would have strictly people who disagree with him on, I think.
I think that was his favorite shit. He loved it.
Maybe. Well, I don't even know. Maybe he would never have guests. Maybe it would be like Tim Dillon, where he's just talking about
Still be
social
great.
issues or
That
whatever.
would be awesome.
Whatever it would be, I think that would have been the format for him. And he was in this fucking interview, he's asking Jay Moore. He said he left Marin. He did Marin right before Jay Moore, and he said he ran out and got podcast equipment. And he was asking Jay Moore, how much does this cost? Or what do you do that? He was right on the verge of doing a podcast. And he would do shit on the weekends on the Opie and Anthony
When
channel
was
on
this?
XM.
Yeah.
This is September. This is right after the roast, right before he died.
Fuck.
Yeah, but he was so good when he had a little audience to play off of. I think his stuff was always the best, in the room.
Well, whatever. He would have been smart. Maybe he'd
Yeah.
have producers, or
He would have
he would have
it out.
guests.
It would have been awesome.
He would have had a co-host. Like I said, maybe he would have done it with Anthony. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever he would have done, I think it would have been great. He was hosting before he died. He hosted a show called Web Junk.
Web Junk,
which is basically
Web Junk 2.0.
which is basically Tosh.0.
Yeah, he hated it, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's essentially people say, oh, Tosh.0 ripped off Web Junk. They both ripped off America's Funniest Home Videos.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's not what Patrice was about.
Ridiculousness. Original.
It's ridiculousness. Yeah, that's basically what he was doing. And to have a voice like Patrice being look at this guy get hit in the nuts. Isn't that crazy? That's such a misuse of.
You deserve it, white devil.
But but it could have done the same thing for him that Fear Factor did for Joe Rogan.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
If it had been more successful.
Well, and that's why guys like Colin Quinn and Chris Rock were just fucking do it once, dummy.
Yeah.
Because then you can make your career. Then
Yeah.
you can choose to do whatever you want. But he would not give it in there.
Yep.
It made me sad as I was talking. It didn't dawn on me that this was Marin and Rogan were getting popular. As they're having this conversation, Marin and Rogan are getting popular. And Patrice is saying, like, what did that cost you? How much is that? Like, he's buying fucking podcasts. That is sad.
Imagine that.
He was right on the cut. If you just could have fucking eaten better.
That shit just makes me think of, like, the fucking him and Louis having the conversation.
Yeah, right. Put down the fucking soda. And no, I'm not projecting when I say if the guy could have just eaten better. Just save your tweets for yourselves.
I do enjoy when Bobby Kelly talks about how he would tell him, and you're like, all right, Bob.
Yeah, I know.
Calm down. But it was Bobby saying he's on his third fat.
Bobby made it to his 50s, you know?
Hey, good for him.
I will, before we play the next Jay Moore clip, I will say that this is the struggle that Patrice went throughout his life. Was Bobby, I was listening to, by the way, do yourself a favor, like I said about the documentary. If this episode is getting you into Patrice or you weren't as aware of him before, go check out the Opie and Anthony show from November 30th, 2011. The day after Patrice died, they had Rogan and Burr and Rich Voss
They had
called in.
every comic you can possibly think of.
Colin Quinn, Jim Norton, Dave Attell, DeRosa, Louis C.K., Bob Kelly, like just a cavalcade
Saget Colin,
of stars. I don't think I think that might have been the next day or something. But regardless, Rogan did though. But yeah, they like all these guys were on the show that day, and it was unreal, hilarious Patrice stories and everything. But Bob Kelly was they were talking about a similar type of thing with Patrice, where like his career was maybe about to blow up, and Patrice was realizing that, where like him and Bobby Kelly would talk on the phone all the time. And he said to Bobby Kelly, like, he's like, I love you, Bob. Like, you're my friend, but I shouldn't be this accessible to you. Like, he goes, you shouldn't be able to just call me. Like, you just have to go through a manager or something. Which is like, I personally think Bob Kelly should be more famous than he is as well.
Yeah.
He's a good actor and not just I think he's a great stand-up too.
Hot Bobby would be super famous.
Yeah, he would.
Maybe, yeah.
Fat powder.
But even as a fat guy, like give him a fucking sitcom or something. You know? But like there is, when you watch their comedy, there is a disparity where like, yes, Patrice should not have been on the level of Bob Kelly, Rich Voss, these guys who I think are very funny. But Patrice is just a different level. Yeah. Just like, you know, no one saw until he died, unfortunately.
He just had a like a profundity to his shit. Like
what?
He just thought so differently than most people do.
Yeah, he completely
his brain just worked different.
His thoughts on
it didn't.
Which, by the way, he'd be done for now with his views on women and everything. Like,
but you know what? Though? I'm not sure. I think he could have just told people to go fuck themselves.
He could, especially if he started a podcast for sure.
Right.
But like, so his views on women, and you know what? The way he presented it,
insane.
The way he presented it, though, would be like he would have, like he always said that Anthony Cumia would always say he's not attracted to black girls.
Yeah.
And Anthony would always say that like. He's like, it was amazing because Patrice would come on and convince me that meant I was gay. And like when the episode ends, I'm like, am I?
I remember them doing that one time that they would pull they were pulling people up and they're like, what about this?
Yeah, like he said, it would make Anthony question himself.
Yeah,
like so Patrice just had that ability. What's the next clip we got?
Well, it's the one about him wanting to do a talk show.
Yeah, so again, that
spoiler alert.
Like,
yeah, right.
Again, it would have to be Joe Rogan, not fucking Ellen, but not even like David Letterman. You know what I mean? I don't see him in that format really.
No.
It would be like
open conversation.
It would be Rogan or something like that. Yeah,
be like a free form thing like Rogan, exactly.
You know what? He could have done a Rogan type where he's just talking to, because he was a curious enough guy.
Oh yeah,
where you could have fucking scientists and philosophers on. And just ask questions the way Rogan does.
Well, he always used to talk about wanting to talk to racists and stuff too, because he would always say like, "Oh yeah, all those like crazy motherfuckers in the woods." He's like, "You don't understand. If you just weren't racist, you'd have black people on your side. We hate the government too." Like, it's just like.
Well, he always said about Anthony.
Yeah.
He goes, "Anthony, you're a racist. You live like a black guy, racing around in sports cars. You're carrying a gun, fucking young women,
buying a house you can't afford.
Like you live like a rap star." So let's hear this.
So Tough Crowd, when you asked me what I wanted to do, Tough Crowd was what was up my alley.
You want to be Colin?
I want to.
You want to be on the panel?
I want to be able to know what it was is like. For me, I would love to be Jon Stewart, or I would love to be Anderson Cooper, or I would love to be even Jimmy Kimmel. I would love to sit and tell my point of view, no matter what it is, without any angle, without any political association.
Your angle.
My angle, and just really talk shit and tell my opinion, to be honest. But to get paid for it. I've given away a lot of my spirit.
So that would have been fucking great. And if you don't know Tough Crowd, by the way, like if this is the first time you're really diving into Patrice, go check out him on Tough Crowd. We have one clip that we'll play later on, but like Tough Crowd was the first podcast, which is again probably why
it was the best.
The perfect setting for Patrice. Like as much credit as Stern and O&A get for podcasting, I think Tough Crowd deserves, I mean, as much credit, if not maybe a step below, but like almost as much credit. And the only reason I say step below is because it just wasn't as popular as Stern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just didn't influence as many people. Right. Whereas everyone listened to fucking Stern. Yeah. So, but the fact that like Tough Crowd only lasted 2 years is very
shame.
What a time for it though! Like right as like the Iraq War and shit was like heating up. It was perfect for Colin.
So if you go back and watch, so much of what they talked about holds up completely. Today.
Fuck yeah!
And it was, Colbert was very funny. I think Colbert might be what replaced him.
Colbert as a character was funny.
Yes,
he's not
well, that's what I'm saying.
now.
I'm sorry. The Colbert Report was funny. I should say. So it's not like they were replaced with dog shit, but like that would have been so interesting to have that perspective on. But because they had that perspective, where like their diversity was Patrice O'Neal and Keith Robinson, who would be viewed as like, horribly sexist and all this type of shit now. So even though they were black guys, they didn't fit the right black guys.
Like
you know what I mean? Like the industry one.
The role that Chappelle has now the mantle Chappelle has now picked up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We're still on the Jay Moore podcast.
Jay Moore, we have the clips about him on The Office, and then we have JS if he has changed.
Okay, so let's hear about him on The Office, because he said something very interesting about, like, it was a very telling insecurity that Jay Moore points out to him. I think Jay Moore did a good job on this podcast of kind of pointing out some of Patrice's insecurities or things he didn't need to worry about as much as he was worrying about them. And this, in particular, is on the set of The Office and like why that didn't necessarily work out.
I want to be able to look at BJ Novak and go, "You the man. Let me submit to what is something in me." I'm looking at his face, and he can sense.
Disdain?
Yeah.
But and
I can't hide it, and I try to, so I go, look, let me not get a bad rep, so that when I get like this Charlie Sheen thing, I think that was one of the biggest steps I made in terms of showing people what I do, meaning in that situation.
Yeah, so the reason I found that interesting is just that like he is talking about BJ Novak, where like an insecurity to him is that like he kind of thought BJ Novak was looking at him like that's right, motherfucker, like I'm your boss, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And
is there more to that, Matt? Is there a second clip with the?
Yeah, he talks about his eventual leaving.
Yeah, so this is like he's kind of talking about how like BJ Novak, he felt like people were like looking down at him or kind of like sneering at him or judging him or whatever it might be.
I've heard him talk about this like in a bunch of other places too.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, this is where Jay Moore, I thought, did a good job of pointing out why you think I'm a hack. I'm pulling hack.
This is the last thing he did before he died, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you leave or did they just say that?
No, it was no absoluteness. It was like they asked me to come in one day and I wasn't there, and I didn't fly in. No, I didn't. I was in New York, and they said, "Can you come in
for what?
To just do what I do."
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was there like 6 lines?
Right, yeah. I was a 6-line guy, maybe a 3-line guy.
Yeah, like the big
which was fine.
Guy.
Which was fine.
Yeah. Everyone on the show is though.
Right. I just couldn't do it.
That to me is insane.
I know.
Like I would have done it.
To me, it's insane too. But
see, this is the important part of the conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Are you lay in bed at night going, "Why the fuck didn't I just get on the plane?"
No, I don't regret it because I know my insanity. There's some insanity about you that you accept for yourself, isn't it?
I Yeah, of course. We all have.
No, that was it. Yeah. So Jay Moore went on to say, like, when BJ Novak is looking at you, he's not saying, like, look at this motherfucker, or I can't believe I have to work with this guy. He's thinking, I wish I could do what Patrice does. Because, like, BJ Novak's a stand-up. Or even, like, Mindy Kaling, who's a writer. Like, they wish they could perform the way Patrice does.
Yeah.
So Jay Moore was trying to get to him, like, the way you think you're being perceived is not, like, it's jealousy, not judgment. Not disdain. Yeah, not disdain, necessarily. And sometimes it was disdain. Like, sometimes he was right, but...
BJ Novak's a stand-up?
Yeah. BJ Novak actually has a pretty funny joke.
Didn't know that.
About Michael Jackson, where he goes, you know, a lot of artists, he goes, people wonder if Michael Jackson is actually guilty. And a lot of artists leave very subtle hints to their, you know, their depravities in their art. And I think I may have picked up on something in a Michael Jackson song that to me suggests that he might be guilty. And he goes to read lyrics of a song. He goes, I'm bad. I'm bad. I'm really, really bad. You know it. You know I'm bad. But yeah, I don't know if BJ Novak still does stand up, but that's how he started. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So there's one more on Patrice, right? With Jay Moore? Or no?
Yes.
Okay. What's it called?
Is the one he asked if he's changed.
Yeah. So let's hear it.
When did you know you were funny? When did you know you wanted to do comedy? I didn't mean to stump you. Jesus. The look on your face.
Seriously?
Yeah.
17.
17?
Like dead ass, and then it took till I was 22 to do it. So I talked myself out of it for 5 years. I just didn't do it, and finally I did it at 22, 1992. But at 17, I wanted to start.
Are you going to start talking yourself into shit?
I do. You gotta understand, dude. You're talking to
Is that true?
A different dude.
Is he a different dude now, where he talks himself into shit as opposed to talking himself out of shit?
I'm seeing that.
Yeah, good.
I'm better at that.
You're too fucking good to be a guy on the shelf. You can't be like the guy on the bench because the coach doesn't know you're there. You got to be the guy to get on the plane and go do the office. You're too fucking funny, and you have a presence that's too...
I'm way better than I used to be, though.
And you're way better. Here's the other thing. And
in terms of attitude, way better.
This is going to sound cocky as all fuck, but we both know it's the reason we're in the business.
Okay.
You see guys on Star Search and even the Improv, and you go, I'm better than these motherfuckers.
Right.
You know, when you go and do these shows, you can kill them. You can crush them. Do me a fucking favor, and the next time they ask, get on the fucking airplane and do the show. Because you're too good not to do it. And when you do it, all those people splinter off into their other shows, and all it takes is one out of those 14 bullshit producers to get two broke girls and go, hey, you know who'd be a great super? I don't know, super.
I felt
you know who can play Bookman?
Bookman. The new Bookman.
He wouldn't do Bookman.
No, I know, I'm just saying.
So that was a depressing clip, because that, again, to reiterate, that's a fucking month before he went to his coma.
Like, I'm gonna fucking do it.
And he's like, I'm gonna do it. And Jay Moore, I thought this was a great interview by Jay Moore. I'm not like the biggest Jay Moore fan or anything, but I thought it was a great job because it shows Jay Moore, a guy who is very willing to sell out, or whatever, to sell out, but like do a CBS sitcom, that sort of thing. And Patrice, a guy who never would. That guy, Jay Moore, kind of coaching him how to meet halfway, but also showing so much respect for what Patrice does. You know what I mean? That was the interesting that interview, if you ever want to check that out. And then the next clip I think we had was on Maron, right?
Correct.
Which, by the way, another funny story from the Opie and Anthony show the day after he died. DeRosa was telling this one, where they were talking about the tough crowd days. And Maron and Patrice are friends. But, Maron would do Tough Crowd once in a while, and they were talking about the Bible or something. And Maron says something like, two was enough. What if there was a third testament? And kind of launched into, like, a bit that he was doing. And he said, you just hear Patrice kind of off mic go, shut up, Mark. So he was.
I
fucking-
love.
See, he was ahead of his time. Now we're all saying it.
I know. Yeah, now Maron's losing his fucking mind.
Yeah.
But that is again to talk about Tough Crowd and Patrice on Tough Crowd. Like that's the only show you would get something like that where a panelist is telling another panelist to shut the fuck up, and the guy Maron laughs about it and it gives him shit back and all. Like you didn't get that on any other show. Now you get it on podcast.
Yeah,
dad
but it's such a fucking yeah. Those are great. But those are such a fun. That's such a fucking comic thing to do because I mean I think this story's been told to death. But like the phone book, like when Kevin Hart was.
Oh,
up
well, you
there.
can tell. It's been told to death in like Opie and Anthony circles, but people listening might not know.
Kevin Hart. He said when Kevin Hart was like early in his career, he's up there doing
the Kevin Hart.
Yeah, the Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Doing his stand up at I think it was at the Cellar.
Yeah.
Or somewhere, and Patrice and Keith Robinson were sitting in the back, and they were heckling him, and he's finally just. All of a sudden, you just see a phone book fly through the air and land on the stage. And he's like, "Here, read from this. It'll be funnier than your act."
Yeah, he like and the Comedy Cellar. There's a million stories like that. Of those guys brutally just busting each other's balls. But then that's what Tough Crowd was. That's what Colin. We'll get more into that in another episode.
And after Tough Crowd ended, that's what O&A turned into.
Yes.
That's what made me a fan of that show.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
When Jimmy started on that show, and he would bring in guys like Patrice and stuff, and they would
Burr
just
and-
sit
yeah.
around that table and just be mean to each other.
Yeah.
It's the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life.
You know what's funny too about that like era is Louis J. Gomez was talking about this, where he was in a group of comedians, and one guy, I think it was Ian Fidance or something, had a slice of pizza. He just bought a slice of pizza. Yeah, he was holding it on a little paper plate, and Louis, like he just bought it, and Louis slapped it out of his hand, and it landed on the ground, and everyone in the group was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And Louis was like, "I thought that's everyone I listened to growing up. I thought that was fun." Like that's the type of shit those guys would do to each other that is just doesn't exist anymore.
That was a scene in Lucky Louie. Remember, like, there's a scene in the pizza place where Jimmy walks up to this thing and pretends to be retarded. He's like, "Thank you," and they give him a free piece of pizza. And then Mike the mechanic walks over and he just takes it and walks away. And Louis like, "Well, I'm gonna go pay for mine." And he goes and pays for it. And he goes and walks over, and Jimmy just smacks it out of his hand.
So, anyways, this is I thought this was pretty interesting. It's Patrice on Maron talking about basically how he didn't get enough recognition, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I might have what I have. I don't. I think because I see the laughter and the reaction from people who love me, and I never want to turn my back on the people who actually enable me to exist.
That's good. You should hold on to that.
Yeah, but but I see their reaction. I see the people that I do touch. I touch them on such a real level.
Yeah.
That I go, there's no way I can be this irrelevant in terms of socially irrelevant, in terms of numbers.
Well, let's talk about it.
God, that's fucking sad.
It's crazy, right? And this is I think that was also 2010, 2011. But it's crazy to think now where Patrice is on, like, you know, if you're under 40 and a big comedy fan, there's a good chance Patrice is on your like Mount Rushmore.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like one of the guys you loved. But when he was alive, he did not have that impact.
No.
Like he never felt that while he was alive. And it's sad because for a variety of reasons, through his own fault and through the fault of the industry, he was just never really
He's
never really
not-
had that chance.
He's not on my Rushmore of stand-up.
No.
How much of his stand-up have we played in this so far?
We have 2 clips.
All right, stand up as an art
do you want to play his whole
form in
fucking
its
album?
own.
It's only an hour show.
Pure, you fucking purist.
All we've talked about so
No, you're
far
right.
is his radio spots and podcasts.
You're right.
Which
Well,
is,
yeah, but
that's where he's the best.
But he put out. I mean, the only real special he put out was in 2011 when guys weren't getting like now everyone is a YouTube special. Like it wasn't that common to have 8 specials back then.
but
like
Craig-
Louis was the only guy. Carlin did this, and then Louis. Now everyone does it.
Yeah.
where you put one out like every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
But Craig, the stand-up comic, is saying like it's not stand-up, which I understand what you're saying. I'm not even mocking you. I'm saying I get what you're
excuse me.
saying. Well, I get what you're saying.
Craig's a little higher bar
stand-up
than
comic?
most of us.
No, I'm just saying, like you're saying, stand up is its own thing as the art form itself, not just being a comedian or a comic.
Right.
I still meant what I said.
I
meant people say he's the funniest fucking guy ever.
Yeah,
but that wasn't being said while he was alive.
Right.
My point.
Right. I get what you're saying.
I didn't mean to get into the meticulous.
Well, I understand what you were saying, but
how many minutes of material he
Yeah.
has down. But
prolificness.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting though, and kind of like I said, sad in a way.
Yeah.
But he did always have that in that Memorial O&A episode. Opie asked a dumb fucking question.
Nuh-uh.
Where he goes, was he ever sad? And Bobby Kelly and Jim go, oh yeah, all the time. Like they would like always get calls from Patrice, like depressed, and the same type of shit he's saying to Marin there, where he's like I said with Bob, like you shouldn't be able to call me. Like you should have to go through a couple channels to get my phone number. Where he had that feeling about him, and it is like the way. Fucking Jim Carrey wrote himself a check and for $1 million and said, I'm going to cash it when I'm famous. Like the way that works out for some guys, it doesn't for others. Like Patrice knew how good he was, but it doesn't necessarily amount to like fame and fortune, unfortunately.
Right.
What's the next clip, Matthew?
We have the Lisa Lampanelli clip or the Jeff Garland.
Oh, yeah. So these are both interesting because, again, it plays to him changing over the years, kind of. Let's play Jeff Garland first, just because I think Lisa Lampanelli's a little better. The story's a little better. But these are two people that Patrice had a run-in with, offended them earlier in his career, and he kind of came around later in life. He started to feel guilty about that type of shit. So let's hear Garland first.
And you had, and it literally just reminded me many years ago. Patrice was a very loved guy on this show, and you had a nice moment with him.
I had the best moment
at
with
the
him.
like an unpleasant interaction at one point. We all did tough crowd.
It was unpleasant, but it wasn't that.
Right,
you were
right.
there, if I'm not mistaken.
I may have
I'm
been.
almost positive.
What was the moment?
It was on Colin's
crowd.
show.
Tough crowd.
My reputation is as an improviser. That's
Sure.
I don't have an act. I've never had. I shouldn't say never. When I was younger, I did, but since I've been established, I don't have an act. I literally just go up. And Patrice said to me as we were sitting there on the air, he goes, "Is that all the great Jeff Garland has?" And I hadn't even started. I just said one thing, and I go, "You are so messing with the wrong guy." And we were ripping each other on the air. All right, so. I'm not going to say a lot of years, but a few years go by. I'm standing on 57th Street and Broadway, and Patrice walks up to me. And I go, "Hey, Patrice," and he goes, "Hey, man, I just want to apologize." And I go, "You're apologizing for the thing before?" I go, "That's very nice of you." And it was so heartfelt, and he was so sincere about what he said to me, that he was coming from a place of insecurity and all this stuff. And I was so moved by it. We gave each other a big hug, and
wow.
I was so, yeah.
Now, for every story like that, though, there were I forget who it was, but someone said after Patrice died, let's not forget. There are as many people today celebrating as there are sad. Yeah. And, I think Donnell Rawlings was the one that said on the Patrice documentary, he goes, "Hey, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Patrice was a fucking asshole." He goes, he was a fucking asshole. Now, Jeff Garland didn't get into a lot of the details. I feel it seemed to me like a guy, Jeff Garland kind of saying well, the guy's dead. I'm not going to shit on him completely. So he kind of glossed over the interaction they had. But I suspect Patrice was probably a dick to him if he felt inclined to apologize and give him a hug years later. You know what I mean? But he could be a fucking asshole a lot. And I think a better example of that is his interaction with Lisa Lampanelli.
Oh man!
Tell me who really makes you fucking angry.
Who makes my blood boil? It used to be, I don't know if you remember this guy, because nobody knows who he is. Do you remember Patrice O'Neal?
No one remembers. Oh, that's good. See what you did there?
He used to be.
People do know him, and what you're doing is
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'm not mad at him anymore. He called. He used to torment me at the Comedy Cellar night after night. So a few months ago, I was playing a theater in Florida, and he was playing a club, which is hilarious
it's
when
your
that
favorite
happens.
Thing.
Hilarious. So I said I wouldn't go into the radio station until he left because I didn't want to be face to face with him because he made me so sick in the early days.
Wow.
He actually called the radio station and apologized on air for anything he did to me. Now, that's why I have to say I don't hate him anymore. I think a lot of them come around. They see, hey, you know what, I was wrong, and I'm
when
a nice guy.
When you say a lot of them.
The blacks.
I like Fitzsimmons, too. I don't know him as a stand-up really, but he's kind of funny. That's who was interviewing her, by the way.
He's another Boston guy, too, right? Like BU or something?
I don't know. I don't know if he's from Boston.
He started here.
Yeah. I think he started comedy here. But anyways, yeah. So I think the way Norton kind of tells that story is basically that he wasn't like Patrice was an asshole to Lisa Lampanelli, but also like he was giving her shit the way he gave
to everyone,
Voss or whoever, anyone else shit, but they weren't friends.
Right.
So that's the thing about Patrice. Like when people say Patrice is an asshole, it's like him talking the way he talks to his buddies, but you're like, I don't know. Why are you saying this to me? I don't know you. Like
sounds familiar.
DeRosa told a story that like he went up to Patrice and Keith Robinson in the Comedy Cellar, and he goes, I didn't really know Patrice, but I kind of knew Keith from Philadelphia, and he went up to him and Patrice goes, shut the fuck, who the fuck are you talking to? And turned away and like wouldn't acknowledge DeRosa. And and they ended up becoming like good friends.
Because
but like
I'm wearing backpacks.
Yeah, imagine that interaction with someone you've never met before. You know what I mean? You'd be like, this guy's a prick. Like, you wouldn't be talking about him in those glowing terms. But like as Lisa Lampanelli said, like I think he started to realize that later in his life, which is unfortunate that he didn't live longer to sort of bank on that some of that shit. But what do we have next?
So I got It's Cold Out Here, or I got DC Sniper Harassment Day.
So I wanted to include all of these because
you didn't pull Coke Logics.
This
did a different one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this isn't Coke Logic.
It was just the first. It was not the first thing that came up. The radio version was too long, and this was just a shorter version that I could put up. But I pulled a clip from Tough Crowd, a clip from O&A, and I tried to do ones we didn't do. So you can go back on patreon.com/blindmike and search for the Patrice episode we did back in February or something. It was me, Mike, and Craig talking about. It was right after the documentary came out, I think, where we talked about a lot of his time on mostly Opie and Anthony, which we may do again on this podcast. But if you want to go check that out, go to patreon.com/blindmike. But on this program, I wanted to include at least because we've been talking so much about serious shit and things he regretted and things he could have done and all that. But this is just an example of him being hilarious on the radio.
Yeah, it was like Christmas time. I had driven home, went to go to Boston for a second. So I'm driving back, through Connecticut. You drive and you get that scared tired, like that tired that you go, oh my God, I'm getting ready to die. Tired, like you
don't have any more confidence in yourself that you can keep yourself awake. You're like, oh damn,
it's cold, so all the windows are down.
Yeah.
Fucking Young Jeezy. Yeah, I'm up, motherfuckers.
Blasting, punching your leg,
and just that type of tired where I went to sleep a couple of times.
Oof.
And I see a McDonald's in the distant, oh shit, McDonald's fucking rest stop.
Yeah.
So I just do 95 till I get there. Pull in there, park. I go, thank God. I put my seat back. Put my my skylight up. I look in the sky and shit, just fall asleep. I lean back.
You're probably out in like 2 seconds.
About 2 seconds, but for some reason, after about a good 5 minutes of sleeping, I just my eyes open. Nothing woke me up. Just my eyes open. Right?
Not a sound, nothing.
I
Just open your eyes.
Oh boy! I look to the left, then I look to my right, out my passenger side. Clean cut white guy, Abercrombie and Fitch. Fucking ties. Now, I look at him to try to give him for 30 seconds we're looking at each other. So I finally go, okay, this nigga ain't leaving. I turn my key backwards, crack my window about an inch. I go, what's up, man? He goes, it's cold out here. I go,
cold out.
I go, what? He goes, it's cold out here. And he tries my handle on my door. He pulls my door handle.
Holy shit.
It's cold out here. Pulls my door. I said, what? Well, go inside. Go inside. It's coffee in it. So I'm watching this motherfucker gets into a Subaru Outback with a Christmas tree on top and drives away. And that's when the adrenaline kicked. I said, this motherfucker. He was going to suck strange black dick before he went home to take a Christmas tree to his fucking family. It was like drinking 14 cups of coffee and a Red Bull.
You were awake.
Once I said, this guy was a fag. I thought he was just a creepy cold guy.
I think creepy cold guy. I meant to cut it off before we shame Patrice as a homophobe. But remember, it was a different time when he used certain words.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that, I mean, hey, it's just fucking hilarious. Go inside. There's coffee in there.
Oh, dude, this is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
But the other thing to me, and maybe I'm overstating this because I'm a Patrice fan and he's dead and we're pontificating about how great he was and everything. But to me, like, I think the bit for a lot of people there would have been like that this guy was trolling for gay sex in a truck stop and what would I have done in that situation and shit like that. Instead, Patrice's observation was, this guy has a fucking Christmas tree on his roof and he's going home to his family. Like, this motherfucker's bringing a Christmas tree home to his family. Like, just that sort of observation would be the shit he would bring to, like, when he would talk about movies. He was brilliant. Like, everything from movies to just, like, humanity. Like, as serious a topic or as silly a topic as it could be. Like, that's the type of shit Patrice would bring, I always thought. Should we move to Tough Crowd?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw a Tough Crowd clip in too. Again, we'll do a whole Tough Crowd episode, which will have a lot of Patrice moments, like I said. But this is just one. And again, the observation, not just the observation skills, but like his awareness of racial inequality and the way the industry fucked things up and like kind of, you know, their quote morals would be skewed. This is him on Tough Crowd talking about the DC sniper case, which you may remember from like 03-ish, I think.
I do the thing about the sniper, the black sniper. Yes. And blah, 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 blah. The punchline was nigga in a Buick. And they so funny. They cut out Buick. They cut out Buick. I swear to God, because they didn't want to Buick.
Yeah, but that was just logical. It wasn't really a Buick.
But that's the point. That's why it's funny, though. The reason it's funny is because people don't understand why things are funny. Hard consonants are funny. Yeah. You know, blah 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 in a Chevy, or blah 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 in a Maxima is not funny. Buick is funny. That's why. And the fact that he wasn't in a Buick is the reason. I'm a comedy genius, and it's hard.
It is though. Like, that's the funny thing is, like, he's fucking around, but like it must have been hard for Patrice to get people, and that's probably where the frustration comes with the industry. Like, to get the suits, like these fucking stiffs, to understand him. Right. Must have been impossible, which is probably why he said, "Well, fuck it then. I'm just gonna be myself at all times." But yeah, that's hilarious. Like, and just that observation, like they believed Buick because they weren't a sponsor instead of the N-word at the time. But he really is a comedy genius, obviously. Where are we going now?
Harassment Day.
Harassment Day. So this is topical as well, because when this comes out, it'll be the week that Patrice died, which is also the same week as Harassment Day. A holiday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving is a holiday that we should all celebrate. And so I pulled had Matt pull two clips from his special because I thought they were so relevant today. And, he's 10 years ahead of his time. Like, Elephant in the Room came out 10 years ago. And these are things like society is fighting over today. And at one of them, not this clip, but the other one, where like it's just dawning on us as a society, and Patrice was talking about it 10 years ago, which is unbelievable. So this is the first one, Harassment Day. I didn't have you cut this one as much because I figured we could just stop it whenever we're done with it. It's a little long, so feel free to stop it.
Ladies, let's discuss harassment. for a second. Why can't I harass you? Sometimes I can never harass you, never. And I'm not talking about, like, I'm talking just. At the job. It's unfair that I can't harass you at the workplace. Like, you looking how you looking, and I can't just a little something that has to do, like, you gotta be careful just to say, hey, you look beautiful today. That's how messed up the game is. I think you should be able to comment on any part of the body that you see. If you, I'm serious. What's your name? What's your name? Jeannie. Now, Jeannie, no disrespect, but if I work with you, I should be able to walk in and go, oh, Jeannie, beautiful titty meat you have there. And, because I see that, but whatever the scientific term is, I'm looking at Mr. A 4.9 grade point average. What's the science term for the titty meat? What's the actual? And it's not the cleavage. I mean, the cleavage is the space in the middle. I'm talking about the meat, the titty part. And I'm not.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, that's about it. That sums it up basically. But he gets into like how there should be one day a year, basically, where we're allowed to harass our coworkers.
You bring in flowers.
Now listen,
happy harassment.
Now listen, I know he doesn't have the sheer volume of comedy that someone like Craig respects, like a Jim Gaffigan type, but I thought that was pretty good. I think that's pretty quality stand-up.
Oh, solid.
It is. So that it's just fun. Like he was, you know, this is an issue that is huge now. Like the idea of being able to, you know, kind of flirt in the workplace and shit like that is equivalent to you know, sexual assault in a lot of cases, the way it's portrayed in the media. And Patrice has been talking about that for 15 years. And like now it's a big issue. But the even more glaring, I couldn't believe, and I genuinely don't believe that Joy Ann Reid of MSNBC, I'm sure she's not a Patrice O'Neal fan. I'm sure she's not familiar with his content necessarily. But like I heard her talking about, what do they call it? Like beautiful white woman syndrome or something like that, where the media covers stories about missing attractive.
I almost mentioned this.
Missing attractive white women more than they would mention, like, say, you know, a black girl that went missing. They're more likely to mention the pretty blonde girl that went missing.
Gabby Petito.
So Joy Ann Reid, I think that's why she brought it up, was Gabby Petito. So Joy Ann Reid was just talking about this, like it's a new, interesting idea. And I was flabbergasted because immediately my first thought was this stand-up bit from 10 years ago.
Yep.
You know how you can tell how pretty a white woman is? The value, you look at her and then you wonder how long they would look for if she was missing. Come on, take a look. Take a look. Look at this nigga. Look. I saw you look mad, sweetie. How long, if you was missing, how long you think they were? Exactly. She went. You know the deal. I ain't saying nothing wrong. White woman's life is valuable. What's his name? Joran Vandersloot? Right? We find out he was a serial killer. Man, he kills women. That's what he do. He do it well. You know what I mean? We know the girl that he you know, supposedly had, what's the girl in Aruba? Natalie Holloway, right? Oh, but the one, he just killed a girl in Peru. What's her name? Exactly. Look how fast you said Natalie. You said Natalie. Natalie Holloway, that angel. Y'all said that like Family Feud. All right, name a white girl been missing for 5 years in the room. Natalie Holloway. Survey said. Name a Peruvian girl that was killed yesterday. What is that big head third world Peruvian bitch's name? It has to be Yoris or something goofy.
So that's brilliant for so many reasons.
Oh my God! Yeah.
The one people talked about, like after he died and for so long after, was just the confidence, like the classic Patrice confidence to command the stage enough to know that no one would know that fucking girl's name, and that someone would know Natalie Holloway's name.
Yeah,
and then he just roped him in.
The confidence to be like, exactly, to have the audience's reaction be a punchline.
Yep.
And there was a lot of, like, just on stage, Patrice, like, there would be pauses and silences and stand, like, he really genuinely commanded a stage.
Yeah.
But the thing that stood out to me, and the reason I put it in this one, was just that literally Joy Ann Reid used Natalie Holloway as the example.
Yeah.
On MSNBC of, like, isn't it crazy that the media does this sometimes? It's like, yeah, a comedian was talking about this 10 fucking years ago. So his perception, like I said, on race, gender, social issues we still talk about today, was astonishing.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we lost that voice. But,
Agreed.
So there's a couple other clips that I want to play that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Pivotal in the assembly of this podcast.
Yes.
But before we get to that, is there any other Patrice stuff you guys want to talk about just as fans or anything that we haven't mentioned?
Nothing that I'm sure we won't eventually get to.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts was him and Louis C.K. talking about where slurs come from.
Yes. That was more on Louis though, being
so
funny.
good though.
Oh well, yeah.
No,
you know what? It's Louis being hilarious.
Yeah.
We can't say what it is. Basically,
But Patrice just went right with it.
Yeah.
Patrice described where a certain Jewish slur came from.
Yeah.
And it has an actual meaning. It means
Yes.
the word means circle.
Circle.
Like it's an abbreviation for the Yiddish word or
Yeah,
something for
Yiddish.
circle. And then Louis says, "Do you know where the N word came from?" But he says it, and he goes, "Someone was just being a whatever."
He goes, they looked that guy was being a.
Patrice laughed so hard. And says, it was just a feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it was just a feeling.
And it's a shame that we're at a point where I can't even say the
Yeah.
words that I'm talking about, even though everyone knows what I mean. But
Another
it is
Louis bit.
Yeah, a little
again.
bit.
It shows you how much was Patrice and Louis.
Yeah.
We're both like funny first.
Yes,
None of
funny
these-
first before
They were not.
anything
They're
else.
not. They weren't rivals.
Yep.
Patrice didn't take a mental health day after this.
Yeah.
It was. They were genuine. Like that was when you could
That
really
was-
bust balls.
It was funny because it was funny.
Yeah.
And the other thing was just the laugh.
Yes.
During the up and down game.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't know, go check out old Opie and Anthony.
The up
Look
and down
up
game.
Patrice O'Neal, the up and down game.
Or on patreon.com/blindmike.
We did talk about it
Yeah,
there
we
as
did.
well.
That's right.
So yeah, we broke that down with. There was a gentleman of. He was a little slower.
That's a loose use of that term.
A slower gentleman by the name of Bobo.
Yeah, I'm not lying.
By his name, you can probably guess what I mean. He was a little slower than most, I suppose you could say.
Not a quick
And listen, back in the old days of radio, you could have guys like this in and poke fun at them.
Yeah, the old days.
Or make them strip and get hard.
Yeah, well, what was interesting about this gentleman, Bobo, was he had a lot of penis surgeries, and he had a little chewed up dick but was very virile. Like, he was a virile man who would, so Jim Norton.
The mere suggestion.
Jim Norton would like kind of sex him up, like talk about
Describe scenarios.
very sexy scenarios, talk about women and like fucking him or like lathering up in the shower, like things like that. Norton would describe, and immediately he was at full mast. It'd be little dick would be sticking straight up, and then Norton would talk about the Mets. And he'd be like, but you got to admit, Bobo, it kind of reminds you of the Mets bullpen this year. And as you would say, go straight down. Bobo was a big Mets fan. If he talked about the Mets, his erection would evaporate. And Patrice's reaction to that was like historic. Like people talk about it to this day. His reaction to that video,
He like fell down,
Yeah.
like genuinely fell down.
so
Like the rapper Genuine?
Sure. It was a mic level grinding.
Yeah,
hole.
that was a stinker.
Jesus. So go check all that shit out that we've talked about today if you're interested in it. If you were not a Patrice fan before and this sparked your interest, go check out Elephant in the Room for sure. And again, I know he hasn't put out the sheer mass quantities of a Carrot Top or a Gallagher, but I think he's pretty good.
I said he wasn't on my Rushmore.
I think he's pretty darn good. I mean, sure,
Rushmore.
the fact that he's 41 didn't affect the fact that he didn't put out as much content, I suppose. but
Rushmore.
I think he was all right.
He's great.
So go check all that shit out with Patrice. And I kept mentioning the memorial episode the day after he died on Opie and Anthony. And so I wanted to include a clip from that is also in one of our intros, not the one we played today, but played on every other other episodes.
One of the funniest things anyone has ever said.
So this was they were honoring Patrice O'Neal. A million comedians have been in, and then they kind of devolved into making fun of like Bobby Kelly and just guys in the room and shit.
Didn't they get super sad at this point?
So then Dave Attell comes in, and it actually started to get a little sad. And then Attell brings back the room.
Attell is a sociopath.
Yes,
and
Attell
couldn't handle it.
He was Dave Attell. Yeah.
This country.
Who are the people?
No. Different.
Yeah,
I think it's great that you guys are doing this, and it's a shock. And I don't know about anybody in this room, but because of Twitter and all that kind of stuff, I can't even process exactly what's happening or what happened, and it's just a horrible loss. So. Yeah,
it really is, and you see it on Twitter, and you see how many people love the guy.
Yeah, but how many paid to see him, huh?
Yeah, that's true.
I hate to be the
They come out of the
I hate to be
woodwork
the
now.
douche and bag of the conversation here, but yeah, everybody loves him for free. We got a purple suit to buy and a gigantic coffin. All right? Let's make things happen. All right? Enough hemming and hawing.
Oh my God.
999. What? No, sorry. That was the last time I was here. No, but I mean, honestly, it's true. There's a lot of
enough hemming and hawing.
fans and
Just the phrase "gigantic coffin" is so
Purple suit
funny.
to buy. And if you don't get that part, go any picture of Patrice. Pretty much.
Any picture.
Either wearing a football jersey or a wacky suit.
Or just absurd attire.
Yeah. So that was hilarious, and that brought the room back on that day. So go check that out if you're interested in that episode. And the other moment was this is also in our intro and really formed the this program. But this is what I hesitated to even include this clip just because it's so like anytime Rogan talks about Patrice, he brings up this clip. It's essentially been I think pretty much anyone that is aware of this clip would identify it as like the best example of exposing just the bullshit of cancel culture and fake outrage and all that stuff. And Patrice uses his intelligence to fucking school a woman who's an activist and a liberal feminist and all that, but is completely judging Patrice since he's a big black dude and a silly comedian. So, she's going to steamroll him mentally. But Patrice turns the tables on her, fucking destroys her in this. So just look up, Patrice Fox News clip, and it'll be the first one, I'm sure. But this part is specifically relevant to this podcast.
This country.
Who are the people?
A new
How can
sense
you,
of
Patrice? So
entitlement
here's my question: how can you justify a bad joke, a joke that isn't funny? Oh, wait a minute. Go ahead. An attempt that isn't funny, doesn't get any laughs, and is about raping the first black woman to ever become the Secretary of State of the United States.
Throw that at me.
Well, why not?
The attempt is what I'm trying to fight for. The joke funny jokes and unfunny jokes are come out of the same birth. That you don't know if anything is going to be funny. You should attempt to be able to make anything funny.
Don't you think a joke about rape is doomed to be not funny?
It's possible, but I've heard them.
You've heard a funny rape joke?
I'd say a couple. Watch my HBO special. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, Patrice says that if you're having sex with a woman, doggy style, and if you hit her in the head just the right time.
No, it's ejaculate in her eye and kick her in the shin, and she walks around like, arg! It's the angry pirate. That's what she was trying to say.
A violent act of hitting her in the back of her head, her body.
It's called the donkey punch.
Which will then...
Why are you laughing? She's outraged. It's called the donkey punch. It's whole humor that she has no clue what it is.
We have the same problem that Opie and Anthony does. You can't say just anything on the air.
You can say anything you want. It might not be funny. You might get in trouble for it, but you should be able to be attempting. And plus, when is a crazy bum going to get an opportunity to rape the president? The president's wife, John? It was trying to be funny.
All right, Patrice, why aren't I hearing Al Sharpton complain about this thing involving Congress?
Because it wasn't involving young black women.
Okay, so
that's where you cut it.
A few things with that. I must have done a few seconds later. I meant to cut it earlier. But a few things with that. The brilliance of Patrice there, just defending The other name I thought of was Speaking for Funny, but then I saw a YouTube channel with that name, so I guess I figured I couldn't do it. I couldn't steal it from him. But so yeah, that's obviously where the title comes from. But also, just if you couldn't tell from the audio, he made in the description that the woman brought up of one of his jokes, he made the like camera crew and shit, like the crew laugh.
And it was women, you could tell.
And so he said, "Why are you laughing? She's outraged."
She's outraged.
So in her point, like, she brought up something that like is so outrageous. How could anyone find this funny? And made the entire room laugh. And just a couple other things in that clip too was he referenced an HBO special, and we said he only had one special.
Yeah,
it was a half hour. So guys like Craig don't really count that. You know, it's just like he's a hack. He's
purist.
He only got a half hour on HBO. You know, he's a piece of shit.
This is slander. This is slander I will not stand for.
And the I don't know if we did a good enough job setting it up. The reason he was on Fox News with this clip is that Opie and Anthony were suspended because they had a guy named Homeless Charlie on. And Homeless Charlie said a bunch of crazy shit. Like he's a homeless guy. He was a genuine homeless guy that they found on the street. And he talked about raping Condoleezza Rice and wanting to fuck Barbara Bush and shit like that. So
who'd that Bush bitch?
Yeah. So some wild shit. And that's why Patrice pointed out, like, when is a homeless guy going to get a chance to rape the first lady? Like, why are we... What if it inspires him to do it? Like,
why are we taking this man
I'm
serious?
sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, he was being very serious, clearly.
Yeah, right. He's probably a mentally ill man.
He's got the funds.
Unquestionably.
He's got the funds.
Yeah, so that is, again, Patrice O'Neal always speaking for funny and did an amazing job of doing it. But unfortunately, like, me included, didn't really appreciate it enough until it was too late. He was gone. But his legacy, like I said, if he became bigger during his life, it's the same we talked about with Dave Chappelle. Whereas if Chappelle takes $50 million from Comedy Central and does the show they want him to do, he becomes Chris Rock.
Yeah.
A very funny guy, but, a little neutered. Or, like a PG-13 rather than R-rated or whatever.
Everybody hates Patrice.
Yeah, right. So if Patrice did that, he wouldn't be Patrice. And we wouldn't be talking about him the same way we are today, He'd be a different guy. He would have been a guy who had a sitcom that was pretty good or something. I don't know. Any final thoughts on the great Patrice O'Neal?
Just that.
All right. We're going to go out with a whimper, as we often do.
Go out with a song.
No, it is. Yeah, it was very sad talking about Patrice because, like I said, you wish he was just around longer, and I think would have had a big impact on a lot of shit going on now. But we do love Patrice O'Neal. It's been 10 years, so we figured we should honor the guy, and we'll probably do another episode centered around him at some point, maybe every year on his on this anniversary or something. But we'll see. But yeah, Patrice, take it away. Well, first, hold on. Let me say, Vaulted Podcasts. Our boy Matt from Rhode Island records here. You can too, if you're so inclined. Go to, what's the website, Matt?
VaultedPodcastRI.com.
Yes, okay.
Cool.
And check out Very Good Show. Check out patreon.com/blindmike to support this program. Get it a week early, and check out all the other stuff we have behind there. And now we leave you with Patrice O'Neal.
It's going to be Patrice O'Neal, Warren Hayes.
Man, this is all spoken. Man, you know I've been enjoying things that kings and queens will never have. In fact, kings and queens can never get. And they don't even know about it. And good times,
Great googly moogly.
Great googly moogly. I have had my fun. If I never get well no more, I have had my fun. If I never get well no more. Oh, my health is fading on. Oh yeah, I'm going down slow. Now, look at here. I did not say I was a millionaire, but I said I've had spent more money than a millionaire. Because if I had kept all my money that I already spent, I would have been a millionaire a long time ago. And women, ooh, women, great googly moogly. Please write my mama. Tell her the shape I'm in. Please write my mama. Tell her the shape I'm in. Tell her to pray for me. Forgive me for my sin. God damn. That's all, yeah. That's Harlem Wolf. You gotta listen to Harlem Wolf though, man.